Tipperary are back in the All-Ireland final. They have beaten Kilkenny 420 to 30 points. Tipperary are in their first All-Ireland final since 2019. Massive win for Tipperary. Congratulations to the Premier County. Commiserations to the Cats in Kilkenny, who in the end lose the game. Was a little bit confusion around the full-time score. Some people are saying it was 420. Some people are saying it was 421. Towards the end of the game, it looked like Noel McGrath scored a point, but then they did wave it wide, and they never took the point away in the Sunday game. So, look, either way, Tipperary have won the game, and that's all that matters. But we will correct that if it is 421 or whatever it is. But look, in the end, fair play to Tipperary. Massive congratulations to them. Like, what a fight. What spirit shown by Tipperary there to pull themselves through it and get it out over the line. To be down to 14 men, to be struggling. When a team goes down to 14 men, I mean, look, for whatever bizarre reason this year, that's two big championship games that have happened this year where a team has gone down to 14 men and got on to win to still win the game. We saw it in the Dublin and Limerick game, and we saw it in this game where Darren McCarthy gets sent off. Look, seen some people saying it was harsh and everything else. Look, it's a silly thing to do, like with the swipe of the hurl towards Owen Murphy's hand, and he's nowhere near the ball. I think it is a yellow, and it's just maybe like it wasn't a bit of frustration after a bit missing a couple of frees and being taken off the frees and everything else. I'm not entirely sure, but look, he's only 19. He's a young lad. He's a phenomenal hurler, and I've seen a lot of people giving him grief on Twitter. I mean, come on, lads, like, get a grip of yourselves. The lad is only 19. He's a brilliant hurler, and I know it's a second red card this year. But look, he'll learn from it, no doubt about that. But look, going through the game kind of from start to finish, opening 10 minutes was a little bit odd. Like, you had that goal from John McGrath, but Tipperary couldn't really settle into the game. They couldn't get any possession of the ball. Hugh Lawler was gobbling up lots of ball. Richie Reid, I thought, was playing very well in those early exchanges as well. The likes of Billy Ryan, TJ Reid, Mossy Keoghan. I mean, Kilkenny were getting points from all angles. And after about 13 minutes, it's 10 points to a goal. And you're kind of thinking, like, geez, if Tipperary don't get hold of this game here, this could really, really get away from them. And whether it was a bit of, pre-match rustiness, a lot of the lads have played in Croke Park, but a lot of them haven't. And it's a big game, a high-profile game. And Tipperary just couldn't really settle in those early moments. And Kilkenny with the likes of John Donnelly, Jordan Malloy as well, who must be said had a phenomenal game actually in midfield for Kilkenny. Scored 4 points in total, all of which from play. And he was very, very impressive. And, an outside shout for man of the match had Kilkenny have gone on and won this game. But look, Tipperary settled their way into it. Connor Stakelin was brilliant. Owen Connolly had a very good game as well. And really around the 20th minute, I mean, that was the turning point. I mean, between Mossy Keoghan's point for Kilkenny in the 20th minute and TJ Reid's point for Kilkenny in the 26th minute, Tipperary score 2-2 in that spell. Darren McCarthy getting a goal, Jason Ford with a brilliant goal as well. All the goals very, very similar, like coming through the left, being able to just cut through Kilkenny with ease, which was very surprising given how sturdy and strong Kilkenny's defensive line usually is. We usually see Owen Murphy pull off brilliant saves as well. But there was nothing he could do in regards to any of these. And yeah, like that goal by Jason Ford as well. And speaking about Jason Ford, like, what a performance from the ages. Talk about getting your team over the line. Like, he stood up massively. Because look, he wasn't the first choice man on the frees. Darren McCarthy was. And even before Darren McCarthy's red card, he'd been missing a couple. And, for Jason Ford to go over there and be placed on the frees. And look, he's been the regular free taker for Tipperary for years. But having not been on them for the majority of this year, massive pressure sort of on his shoulders. But he stepped up big time and delivered. And he was absolutely immense. And that goal as well, like that little flick, to have that sort of... like the balls to actually do that over Owen Murphy, like fair play to Jason Ford there. And Tipperary kind of kicked on after that, like towards the end of the first half. They kind of grabbed control of the game. And look, it was very back and forth. The likes of Ronan Mark gobbling up ball, Owen Connolly obviously as well. Tipperary were getting a couple of good dispossessions of Kilkenny, and it was just back and forth. And even towards the start of the second half, you weren't entirely sure what way it was going to go. Like it was, I think the teams were level maybe 4 or 5 times throughout the entirety of the game. Tipperary, you think, right, when Darren McCarthy gets that red card, that's huge. That's going to be a big turning point, and that's going to spur Kilkenny on. And, it did look like it had done. It did look like it had done it in those moments. When that red card obviously happens with about 12 minutes to go, Mossy Keown, Cian Kenny getting some big scores. But I don't know. I think maybe being down to 14 men, and we see this a lot in Gaelic football, in hurling, having that chip on your shoulder, having that sort of that sort of belief that everything's going against you. It can just galvanise a team. It can raise a team. And to be fair to Noel McGrath, who came off the bench, made a huge impact, I thought, in the game as well. And obviously Oisin O'Donoghue, who comes off the bench, and Tipperary are able to find Noel McGrath's obviously been in the Tipperary panel for a long time now, but to have a player like him that you can bring off the bench and to take off John McGrath as well, which was a little bit of a bold decision, I felt, at the time, given that he'd scored 1-2, but he was very quiet in the second half, in fairness. Jake Morris steps up big time as well towards the end of the game. And yeah, the goal from Oisin O'Donoghue, they sort of bundle their way through. I think the referee's playing an advantage, and Oisin O'Donoghue pops the ball into the back of the net. And look, the referee, James Owens, like it was very whistle happy in the second half, it must be said. Very, very whistle happy, calling a lot of frees. Look, as I said, the red card for Tipperary absolutely was one, but I do think Tipperary fans can feel a little bit aggrieved. And look, they won't feel aggrieved now because they won, but there was definitely an argument there that Paddy Deegan should have been sent off. I think he was already on a yellow as well. Looks to have a swipe at the back of one of the Tipperary player, back of his helmet. It might have been Andrew Ormond. And then you're kind of thinking, right, this is going to be a second yellow, but the referee gives a yellow to Mikey Carey instead. Look, there was a foul from Mikey Carey as well, but I think there was 2 fouls in the one, really. So Paddy Deegan kind of gets away with that one. But look, in the end, it didn't matter for Tipperary. They stood up when it mattered, and obviously that moment towards the end as well from Noel McGrath looked like it was over the bar, but the referees did wave it wide. And they didn't take the point away on the scoreboard as well, watching on the TV. So that was a little bit confusing there as to what was going on. But was Kilkenny chasing down a 3-point lead or a 2-point lead? It looked like a 2-point lead, to be fair. And that moment at the end, I mean, that block on the line, I think it was from Robert Doyle. I mean, absolutely extraordinary stuff there. It beats Rhys Shelley. It's going in the back of the net, and there's Robert Doyle to get the block and essentially win his county the game and get his county to an All-Ireland final. Because if that goes in, Kilkenny have won the game, essentially. Last puck of the game kind of type stuff. So there's no way kind of back from there. But yeah, look, a rip-roaring game, back and forth. I think hurling needed it after yesterday. Yesterday's game was, whilst there was a lot of goals and it was an entertaining game in its own right, it was over at halftime. If we're really being honest, it was over at halftime. It was over with about 20, 25 minutes to go. This was rip-roaring. It was end-to-end. It was physical. It was intense. And look, again, it's another big semi-final, another big game that Kilkenny can't get over the line in. It's back-to-back semi-final defeats. They'll be absolutely kicking themselves because they had Tipperary there. They had them there in their grasp. Tipperary being down to 14 men. It was there for Kilkenny to win the game. But again, it just does feel like in those big do that Kilkenny do seem to struggle. We saw it last year against Clare. In these big games against Munster teams, they do struggle, and they struggle to get over the line, I should say. They don't struggle. Look, they're a great side. They're very, very competitive, and look, they could have won this game, so they didn't struggle on that aspect. But in terms of getting over the line, it is just something that they can't seem to do at the moment. Like even looking at their bench as well, you had Stephen Donnelly, Killian Doyle, who came off the bench, David Blanchfield, none of which scored as well. Could there have been more players there? Maybe that's like that Derek Lynn could have brought on. Like there was no use of Billy Drennan, who maybe could have came on and made a difference. Maybe Fionn Mackesy as well. So maybe a little bit of a surprise in that aspect that Derek Lynn didn't use his bench a little bit more. yeah, fair play to Tipperary for digging it out and getting over the line. And look, Cork will be massive favourites, as I was saying in my review of the Cork Dublin game earlier. Look, Cork will be massive favourites. There's no question about that, regardless of who would have won this game. And they're going to be massive favourites. Look, they gave Tipperary an absolute hiding in the Munster Championship. I think that was the only game Tipperary lost this year, from what I remember. Or did they lose to Limerick as well, or was that a draw? Might have been a draw. But yeah, and look, Darren McCarthy was sent off very early in that game, so it was kind of a hard one to judge. Tipperary played the entirety of that game without a man, and that's obviously going to be very difficult when you're playing a team of the quality of Cork. So look, Cork will be massive favourites. There's no doubt about it. But the big thing for Tipperary is that they can score goals. 4 goals in this game. To beat Cork, you're going to need to score goals. And to be honest with you, looking at that Kilkenny defence and how susceptible they were at times to goals, I was thinking Cork will have an absolute field day against Kilkenny in that All-Ireland final. So I think in the end, we've got the best final. We've got the 2 best teams in the country this year. There's no question about that. And yeah, it's going to be a highly entertaining final. Tipperary are going to be massively relying on some of the experienced heads, it must be said, the likes of Jason Ford, the likes of Jake Morris, whether it'll be John or Noel McGrath who start. They will be relying on those lads. And look, it'll be big for the likes of Darren McCarthy, for the likes of Andrew Ormond as well, for some of these younger players in the team. Sam O'Farrell as well, to be fair, who had a very impressive performance. It'd be big for these lads to get the experience. But those experienced lads will be needed, though, just because you did see in that second half with Darren McCarthy's misses from frees, the inexperience a little bit. You're going to need sort of big heads on shoulders. And look, massive for Liam Cahill as well. I mean, to think Liam Cahill was everybody was saying he was going to leave last year. It had been a terrible year for Tipperary. People saying that the players were revolting, that, he sort of lost his way. And let's not forget, this came off the back of a disappointing end to his time as Waterford manager as well. But he gets Tipperary to the All-Ireland final. It's his 3rd All-Ireland final as a manager. He got Waterford to 2 previously. This time he'll be playing Cork, though, and not Limerick. But the challenge and the prospect is ever so daunting, if not even more daunting, playing Cork at the moment. So there we are. We'll run through some comments here. A2 says, what a goal to win a game. 4 or 5 lads around them. Absolute rocket. Tip deserved it over the 70. Absolutely. Look, and it was brilliant from O'Donoghue because the referee was calling it back for a free. So you might as well go for the goal there. If you miss it, then he calls it back for a free and then you take the point. So clever there from us, O'Donoghue. Absolute rocket of a shot as well. Absolutely unbelievable. Sarah Nash says here, just looked on Wikipedia, this would be the longest Kilkenny have ever been without an All-Ireland hurling title. And you know what it is? It's like you're looking at some lads there, Hugh Lawler, Owen Murphy, TJ Reid. How much longer do these lads have to give to Kilkenny? And, the thing is that, right, Kilkenny are introducing a few, new players here and there, like Jordan Malloy. Don't remember him being on the panel the last couple of years. He looks like a great hurler. And look, the age profile of some of the players, your own Cody's, your Adrian Mullins, these probably do still have a good bit to go. But, for the likes of TJ Reid and these lads, they haven't got much longer, in my opinion. And it doesn't, like, the team, the panel and the squad has been very similar for the last kind of 4 or 5 years. So you do wonder, where are the younger players? Look, the under-20s have been doing all right. They're very competitive. It's a huge, hurling county, as we know. I mean, they obviously don't play football at any senior level. So, they've got a big pool to obviously choose from in terms of hurlers. But yeah, there's going to be changes there potentially. And I've seen some people on social media saying that maybe Derek Ling needs to leave and maybe that could be the end of his term as well, which will be interesting. Who do they go for? Do they bring in Henry Shefflin? Where do they look towards? That's going to be interesting to see if that does happen. Paddy says the second yellow was harsh. I mean, look, you were looking at it and thinking it was maybe a little bit harsh, but it was still foolish. Like, it was nowhere near the ball. I don't think it was intentional or anything like that. Do you know that way? I don't think it was anything of that nature. But yeah, no, I do think it was a red card. A2 says Kilkenny don't know how to get over the line. Who'd have thought it? Yeah, look, I mean, for Kilkenny, like they've done very well to get themselves to finals in recent years, to get themselves in these positions. They never look like they're a million miles off, but it is just in those key moments now that they seem to just they have spells in games where they can switch off, and we've saw that a lot over the last couple of years. And yeah, it will be interesting to see what what happens with Kilkenny going into next year. Do they go for a change of manager? Do they bring someone else in? It's going to be interesting to see. Gavin says, same provincial final, hurling final could be the same as in football. Tyrone treble still on. Yeah, it could be. Could an all Munster final for the second year in a row? Could we have an all Ulster final? We'll wait and see what happens in regards to that. And yeah, I was watching that game earlier as well. Massive for Tyrone getting over the line. Kind of similar as well with a late goal. They got a late goal in that game. The penalty to kind of turn it around a little bit. So yeah, massive for Tyrone. The treble is still on. They could be the first team since 1975, first county to win a treble, under 20 minor and all Ireland senior treble. But look, standing in the way for Tyrone is Kerry, first of all, in that semi-final. So that's going to be, they beat Kerry in the minors today. So look, who knows? But yeah, Gavin also says here, Tips seem to have arm's length. Couldn't tell they didn't play in Croke Park in 6 years. Yeah, like once they kind of settled into it, once they got their groove, they were able to kind of navigate the game a lot better. But certainly in the opening kind of 10 minutes, it felt like that John McGrath goal kind of kept them in it a little bit. But yeah, once they settled into it, they were absolutely brilliant. A2 says the gap between Munster and Leinster is getting wider. You won't see a team outside of Munster win it for a long time now. Scrapped around Robin. We love it, but Munster teams are far more seasoned. Well, that's the thing, isn't it? You look at it like Tipperary didn't even get out of Munster last year. They've gotten out of Munster this year. They've got to a final. Clare, won the All-Ireland last year. Didn't get out of Munster this year. So, imagine trying to predict the Munster Championship next year. You've got Waterford in there as well, who are not a bad team by any stretch of the imagination. So, it seems like if you get out of Munster, you're in the mix for an All-Ireland instantly. Do you know what I mean? Regardless of where you finish. So, yeah, absolutely. It doesn't look like there's a team from Leinster who can win it anytime soon. Dublin are miles off it. Galway look miles off it. Wexford, Offaly, certainly not there. Can Kilkenny? Look, Kilkenny are certainly the one that are the closest, but they've been like this for the last couple of years. It doesn't really feel like they're progressing. Do you know what I mean? So there we are. Gavin says 11 years is Kilkenny's longest famine. After today, it was joint third in tens until today. Yeah, and there you go. And who could have predicted that? Back in 2015 or 2014 when Kilkenny were absolutely dominant. Winning all Ireland's left, right, and centre. Going for the 5 in a row back in 2010, and Tipperary and Lara Corbett in particular stood up that day. So yeah, it's mad to see, but it goes to show dynasties do end. We saw Kerry football have a drought. We saw the Dublin footballers have long droughts, and who knows? Maybe they could be on a bit of a longish drought now, given how things are looking there. But we'll obviously have to wait and see what happens. But yeah, congratulations to the Premier County. Congratulations to Tipperary for getting over the line. Absolutely massive for them. A huge traditional hurling county of relations from Tipperary as well. So I'm always happy to see them do well, to see them get back in the final. Absolutely, I'll be wearing the Tipperary jersey for the final. I've nothing against Cork necessarily, but I would like to see Tipperary go and win it and go and do it. And commiserations to Kilkenny. It must be infuriating. It must be, just really, really, really annoying not being able to get over the line. And Scooby says here, Kilkenny number 7 should have got a red. He was on a yellow already. Absolutely. I think, as I was saying earlier, Paddy Deegan, he should have got a second yellow there. So absolutely got away with it. A2 says, have you got match you want to ignore after yesterday? Well, to be fair to him, I've been throwing a little banter back. Dublin did beat Cork in the ladies' football yesterday. We beat them in the men's football. So we're 2-1 up, in terms of codes this year. Hopefully we don't get to play Cork in the Camogie, because then, that will certainly level up. But there we go. But anyway, cheers anyone who tuned in. Hit the like button and subscribe if you could. And we'll see you all later.